Welcome to Bon Jovi Discussions. Today, I have a really special guest today. And I guess on this podcast, he needs no introduction because once you say the name, everybody's going to know who this man is. I have Mr. Jon Lassman. How's it going?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here. I actually love the Lost Highway shirt you're wearing.
Oh, that's a bootleg.
Oh,
Don't tell
it's a,
John. Yeah, I
oh,
got that in the
God.
parking lot after the gig. You got to support the local community here. I'm sure some guy made this in his mom's basement. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
That's, I just saw, off topic here for a second. I just saw a video the other day. I think it was the Foo Fighters. They went out in the parking lot after the show and bought like a bunch of bootleg shirts from the guys. So I thought that was kind of pretty cool. And I have to admit, sometimes the bootleggers, they have some pretty cool shirts, you
Well,
know?
just don't wash them more than 3 times.
Yeah.
They tend
Uh,
to fade quick. But yeah,
yeah. And then other times too is that, like if Bon Jovi is on the 2022 tour, they're using an image from 1986 on the shirt.
oh, I know. I know. Hey,
So sometimes they're terribly made. At least do your research. But so before we get into our really fun topic, because I'm really, really looking forward to this, I kind of want to get your background about how you got into radio and what you do and all that.
well, I was like 11, 12 years old, and we went on a field trip to a local radio station. And I wasn't listening to the radio. I wasn't into current top 40 music, really. I grew up on the Beatles and the Stones, like everybody. But I went into this radio station and I thought, wow, this is cool. And I couldn't believe these guys were sitting there behind the mic talking to everybody. So one thing led to another. And in fifth, sixth grade, I started volunteering at the same radio station, a small AM top 40 station. And one thing led to another. I went to a little bigger station as I got into high school. And then when I graduated high school, I wound up going to college in New York City.
Wow.
And the company that owned the station I was at as a senior in high school, they had just put on a new radio station in New York, WAPP. So of course I said, "Hey, I'm going to college there. Can I hang out?" And I wound up becoming promotion director,
Wow.
which at 19 I was in way over my head, as
Yeah,
you can imagine.
that's a lot of responsibility for a
Oh
19-year-old.
God, I didn't know
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing, but
You did it.
I was put in charge of the hometown album,
Yeah.
where local bands would send in their tapes, literally cassettes, and the best 10 got on this. Hold on a minute. The best 10 got on
Wow.
this thing.
That is a gem right there. Is that the
Yeah,
record framed or just a
I have it in a frame.
wow, that's a gem. I think
um,
I got the record here somewhere maybe
yes.
downstairs. Yeah, but
Well,
I should frame mine too because we'll talk about that here in a little bit how special that one album is. So
yeah, I was interviewing Dee Snider. Twisted Sister is on it. That was the big one to get because they were a
yeah,
huge local band on Long Island, but they hadn't put out any, we're not going to take it or I want to rock yet. But
yeah,
so when I got Twisted Sister, I was like, the rest is easy.
yeah,
And it wound up between Twisted Sister and Jon Bon Jovi.
yeah.
We had two really big bands on there, although nobody knew it at the time.
Right. And before we get into the whole Bon Jovi thing, I wanted to ask you. So you're at 19 years old as a promotion director. Was it nerve-wracking to you to kind of be in front of these big, I guess I know John wasn't really that big at that time, but like other artists like Dee Snider, was it kind of intimidating to kind
No,
of,
I was too young and dumb.
yeah, you're just
Uh,
excited to do it.
no, I was 19 years old. I was meeting Freddie Mercury backstage and Andy Warhol at the same
Oh
concert
my
because
God.
Billy Squier opened up for Queen, and Andy Warhol had just done the cover of Billy Squier's album, what Emotions in Motion. But I'm just like, I remember I said to the DJ I was with, "Look at that clown over there trying to look like Andy Warhol," and he's like, "We're in New York City, dummy. That is Andy Warhol." So I was. I was having fun. You got to meet a lot of people in your 1983 in New York City. I'll tell you that.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, that's awesome. 19 years old and having those kind of experiences. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I'm going to let you tell this story because we've heard, as myself and other diehard Bon Jovi fans, we've heard this story so many times from John, through interviews. And actually, he just told us that there's a new interview out this week from him, and he talked about this story.
Mm.
But I don't think anyone has ever heard it from you, um, this story. So I'm going to let you talk about it.
How he got on the album?
Well, everything when he first came into you and
Okay. Yeah.
like
Like I said, we were doing the WAPP hometown album. You had to send in your tapes, and the best 10 got on this album. And then the best, they did it in all different cities, all over the country. And they would take all the albums and pick a grand prize winner, and they would get a recording contract with like Atlantic Records. Well, the day before the deadline to get your tape in, I was at the station. I remember it vividly. They called me out to the front desk. I walked out there and I looked at this kid who was like 2 years older than me. And I thought, I don't know if he can sing, but he sure ain't ugly. And there was Jon Bon Jovi with a cassette. And he goes, I'm sorry. I know I'm breaking the rules, but I really wanted to enter this contest. And if I mail it, I'm going to be late. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine, kid.
Yeah.
Give me the cassette. Thank you. And then it was my job to go through these hundreds of tapes that we
Oh
had.
my gosh.
And now Twisted Sister was a given, but I had to get 9 more bands. And I remember listening to Runaway on my boombox in my bedroom that I was living in, the friends of the family. It was like a dorm room in their attic. And all I kept thinking was, where was this recorded? Because, nowadays you can make a pretty damn good recording
Yeah.
on your laptop with these apps and these programs. But back then, it was literally a garage band. And
It,
here comes this thing that, I don't know if it was like, 24 track done at his uncle's recording studio, the Power Station, where Bowie did Let's Dance. And I kept playing it over and over, going, it sounds so professional.
yeah.
Sounds like an album.
And that's my one question I want to ask real quick. So obviously there was a lot. So we've heard a lot of the Runaway demos back then. There was ones of just John and a guitar on a
Yeah.
little cassette tape. Was this the version where it didn't have the keys yet? The
No, it had the
it
keys, but it
did?
didn't
Okay.
have Richie Sambora. I think it's Eldo Nova playing guitar. It was
I
it
think
was done. Yeah,
Pierce.
before the version from the debut album.
Yeah.
It's not that, but it's damn close.
Right. I think well, it was like Tom Pierce on guitar,
Yeah,
Hugh McDonald on bass. It wasn't even David Bryan on the keyboards, because he was also playing with John
was it
before.
Roy Bittan?
Roy Benton, I think so, yeah. And then Frankie LaRocca on the drums.
Yeah,
Remember
I
Frankie?
mean it. All I knew was when he tells that story that I said, this sounds like a hit record. I
Yeah,
called him and I said that. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is great. And he's like, oh, wow, man. And, he was living with his parents.
yeah,
Anyways, he made the album along with the other 9 bands, including Twisted Sister. And then he won the national competition. But he turned down the grand prize because by that time he was getting played on the radio all over the country because of the album, and he cut a better deal. The company that owned WAPP owned a bunch of other cities too: Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Denver. So they all started reaching out to me saying, what is this record? And when you're in New York, you get a lot of attention if you're getting airplay and you don't have a record label. It's one thing to be a local band and get played in, your city, Minneapolis, whatever. But if you're an unsigned band getting played in the biggest radio market in the world, people took notice real quick.
yeah. So what was the grand prize then?
Again, it was a recording contract with Atlantic Records, and it was probably one album deal or an EP.
Yeah,
It wasn't what he got out of Mercury, I'll tell you that.
yeah. because I think Mercury, I think it was like what, a three record deal
Yeah,
he got
I think it
himself
was a
into?
three-record deal, and
And
they
and
pulled it off on that third one.
yeah. You know, and as you said a little bit ago, there was no Richie Sambora yet. You know, the Bon Jovi,
Right.
with Tico and Alec and, David, it wasn't formed yet. And, so the band got signed under him, but that's another story.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So quickly, that song hit the market. Like John has said many times, it was starting to get played in Tampa and Detroit and all these big cities. So
right.
did you have contact with John after that anymore, or?
Yes, he was very, very kind over the years. He's such a businessman in some ways. Those first two albums, I couldn't get rid of them. I had moved back to Minneapolis. I was working at another station in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And every time he was in town, he would show up in the lobby and want to go on the air and talk about the new record. And then Slippery When Wet came out, and he showed up in the lobby and he wanted to go on the air. Then Slippery When Wet started hitting like 4, 5, 6 million. And he wasn't showing up in the lobby anymore. And I'm
No,
like,
people are
hey,
calling him to come.
now I need you. So he actually was very nice and gave me an exclusive interview backstage
Wow.
when he was doing the Slippery tour, like 2 nights at the arena. No one else got an interview for that. That was great. So yeah, he's been very cool.
Do you have that interview laying around somewhere?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure I have all this stuff in my storage. You know
Yeah.
what I can't find is that cassette with Runaway on it. Yeah, I know.
Right there.
Well, who knows? I
Yeah.
hey, maybe I gave it to him over the years. I'd see him,
Yeah.
I'd see him backstage, and I gave him a APP hometown album. It was like the holy grail to him. He didn't have one, so that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you did find that tape, though, I mean, if I were you, I would never get rid of it, but that thing would be worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
Especially the
I
story
have a
behind it.
feeling you might.
You know, and it's crazy to me too. Like back in the day, like bands really had to work to get signed. They had to go to like LA to perform in clubs and stuff and do this and do that. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think bands back then very rarely ever did what John did, just going into the record, you know, or into the radio station and saying, "Hey, here's my demo. Put it on this, homegrown album, or listen to it, give it a chance." And so I think that's kind of cool that John did that.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a reason a lot of bands didn't do that because most radio stations, unless they have a local music competition, they're not even going to give you the time of day. This was the right time, the right platform. You know the band Zebra, who did "Who's Behind the Door"?
I do not know, but
Well, look it up. They're
yeah.
they're a great band. They were the kind of the Rush of Long Island in
Okay.
1983, if you will. But they had just signed a record deal, and they turned me down. They said, "We can't do this local band crap anymore. We
Yeah.
got a big record deal." So I had to go to Twisted Sister and beg, and it worked.
Yeah. That's good. And it's such a weird dynamic because like you look at like artists today, like they're found on YouTube and TikTok, and that's the way like they don't have to go out and do the hustle like these older bands did, going into small clubs and playing and hoping that they get noticed by somebody and signed and
Right.
so forth. But
It's the same thing with comedians. They didn't used to have the platform of YouTube, and you literally had to get on, the Tonight Show or Letterman or Conan
yeah,
just to get a break and then get a national exposure.
yeah.
Now, forget it. It's everywhere.
And one last thing too about these record companies is that they turn down all these big artists. Like look at Taylor Swift, for example. She's literally the biggest artist right now. And all these record companies turned her down at first. They didn't want her. And
Yeah.
look, anyone would give her any amount of money to sign her. It's
Well,
it's a different world we're in.
I
But
won't name names, but on the panel of judges for the APP Hometown album, we had to pick 10, and I think I narrowed it down to like 30. And I knew what was going on, but I played Runaway for the panel, and the record guy, one of the VPs of one of the biggest record companies on earth, said, songs like that sound good, but they never sell. So after Slippery hit, 8 million, I remember calling him going, "Does this sound familiar? Songs like that." And he's like, "Shut up. That was 3 years ago." So, it happens.
Yeah, yeah. So let's fast forward to the 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction when they got inducted. What was that like for you? And kind of share your story about how you got invited, and the shout out that John. I think because I think that was after they got inducted. They were backstage and they did a. I'll
Yeah.
let you tell the story that you.
Well, I heard he was getting inducted, and my old partner in crime, Chip Hobart, rest in peace,
Yeah.
who was actually the first person to ever play Runaway on the radio. I green lighted it on the album. He took the album and gave it a spin on WAPP. But I got a hold of Chip and I said, "Let's go to Cleveland. Let's see this thing." And he was all in, and I got tickets, and I watched the induction. And then we went to when you see the Oscars and the winner will get up there with their statue and everybody's taking pictures. And well, they had the same thing. It was a post performance interview room, and John and the band got up there, and we were so nerdy. Me and Chip were wearing our WAPP fake satin jackets, but I stood up and I made a joke, and John realized it was me, and he called us up, and it was really nice. I didn't know he was going to thank me in the speech.
Also,
That was
they didn't realize that you were going to be there.
No, they had no idea.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm cool, but I'm not that cool. I'm not getting emails from Jon Bon Jovi and a
Yeah.
golden ticket to the performance and the induction. No, I was able to get tickets through connections, and
Yeah.
I just said, "Oh, let's do it," and I'm so glad I did, and it really meant a lot to Chip too.
Absolutely. And that just kind of shows you the man that John is, and like I said, he's told this story so many times through the years about walking into your radio station and the homegrown record and so on. And just for him to always take acknowledgement of the people that have helped him along the way and noticing you and Chip, that's incredible.
Well, and it says a lot about his character.
Yeah.
You can joke around the old, New Jersey strong, but he does have a lot of character, and he remembers those that helped him out, and he remembers those that screwed him.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and I like to say Elvis would have given me a Cadillac, but sometimes getting thanked at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or watch episode 2 of the Hulu documentary. I'm all up in that. So
Yep.
it means a lot.
Yeah. What was it like? What was it like for you to be in that?
Oh, well, they told me I was going to be in it, but I didn't know they were going to have me in it for 5 minutes interviewing him. He was coming to town on that short tour he did that didn't go well at the end with his voice, but he
Yeah.
started it, or the second night was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So I interviewed him on the radio, and 3 months later, I turn on the documentary and I'm like, I'm in here somewhere. And I think there's a snippet of me at the end of episode 1. I'm like, well, that's better than nothing. But episode 2 starts with me and him on the radio. They're playing the actual interview we did, and they keep cutting to him in his hotel room. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. So that was cool.
That's because Chip had passed away,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, because he passed away in 21, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he was battling cancer when we went to the Hall of Fame. And again, it meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
And I was so glad that I could be part of that.
Yeah. Well, that's one question I wanted to ask you too earlier. So when you first got that Runaway demo, and like you said, you went home with it to the basement that you were in and played that, and you loved it so much. When you brought it to Chip, what was his thoughts, first reaction?
Oh, that's a hit record.
He loved it too?
Well,
Okay.
I had hyped it up because, of course, after we got the 10 bands, it took a month for the album to be pressed and the artwork, and it was on sale at Sam Goody. So we had to get it shipped out to the record stores. And I kept saying to Chip, you got to hear this one song on there by this Jon Bon Jovi kid. It's great. He's like, whatever. It's typical Chip. And
Yeah.
then when the album came out, I played it for him, and he, like me, said that's a hit record. And that's how Chip talked.
Yeah.
And he wound up playing it on the air, and the rest is history.
Boom. And there was like a lot of phone calls coming in to keep playing that song from people.
All from John's mom.
Oh,
No, uh, yes,
cousin friends.
there was a buzz, but again, nobody knew this band. I guess some people did in New Jersey, but it was really Twisted Sister and Zebra were the big rock bands in New York City at the time, not Jon Bon Jovi. People had no idea.
But give him a couple years and
Yeah,
he's
I
gonna be
mean
at the top.
it's really
Yeah.
really cool to. I have to take a step back sometime and just go, wow,
Yeah.
he really took the world by storm, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is too is you and Chip really gave him that chance and are a big reason why he I mean, with the chip on the shoulder that he had and has, I'm sure he'd have probably made it one way or the other, but you guys really allowed him to have that avenue and really showcase Runaway. So,
Well, thanks. At the end of the day, it's all about the music. And if he wouldn't have had the songs, it doesn't matter how much airplay we gave him or, support, it wouldn't have happened.
but it definitely helped.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it didn't hurt.
yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't cover or any other stories that you wanted to share?
And no, I'm just, not to sound like a fanboy, but it makes me feel good when I see him and his family on
Yeah.
social media. If it's the Soul Kitchen that he's doing so great with, or the fact that he just became a grandfather for crying
Yeah.
out loud. You know, I mean, this is a guy that, unlike a lot of his contemporaries, didn't fall into hard drugs, didn't get divorced 3 times, didn't crash the Lamborghini, not that I know of.
Yeah.
And, he had his moments on the edge, but never over it, I think. And yeah, he's one for the ages.
Yeah, he's just a really nice. I can't say enough good things about. He's my favorite singer and my favorite rock band and all that stuff. So,
I
yeah.
don't have a shrine like you. What is that? A Bon Jovi cutout back there? Wow.
Over here, that
Yeah.
that is a 2002 Bounce uh,
Oh,
display that they used in like Target. That had the
yeah.
CDs on it when you went into the store. So yeah, I got that. I'm a when I say I'm a diehard fan, that's an understatement.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm actually in my collection room and it's lots of stuff from over the years. So
Well, very cool.
yeah.
You seem kind of young to be so into Bon Jovi, but
I'm 33 and
wow. And a
I did
third.
I discovered them when I was 8 years old in 2000. So I've been a fan of them for 25 years and yeah, it's been great just growing up with them since 2000, and
Wow.
but
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah. My last question for you, I'm curious, what is your favorite Bon Jovi song or album?
Well, of course, Runaway.
Runaway?
And
Okay.
my favorite Bon Jovi album, why, of course, it's this one.
Yes.
No,
Awesome.
yeah, of course, Runaway is my
Yeah.
favorite song. But I go back and forth between Slippery or New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm a big Beatles fan too, and Slippery When Wet is chock full of hits. But New Jersey is like their White Album. It gets deep and
Yeah.
kind of dark and heavy. I like it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I love about New Jersey versus Slippery, obviously with like Debut and 7800, like those were the albums that John's not very fond of, but it really showed the band trying to find their magic, their chemistry, what worked, what didn't work, and all these different style of songs. And then obviously Slippery came, and that was their big breakthrough album. But as John said many times, he wanted to prove that he wasn't just a one-hit
Yeah,
wonder.
yeah,
And so he was so determined to go back in and make another album where it was going to be even bigger than, obviously it didn't get
right.
bigger than Slippery, but New Jersey is one hell of an album. And
Yeah,
for me, if I had to pick between the two, I'd pick New Jersey. But I mean, look at that. I mean, that five number one singles, and
yeah.
from '86 to 1990, they were the biggest band.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
And in my mind, they still are. But
Well, I like the Have a Nice Day album.
oh, that's a fantastic. It just
They're
turned
great.
20. It just turned 20 the other day. 20.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
I have that what is that goofy face, red face
The
on my
smirk.
phone. So,
Yeah,
yes.
that's like, yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, so I can't believe that I'm just turned 20 years old and it's
Wow.
unbelievable.
In fact, hold on.
All
Just
right.
give me 1 second here. I just thought of something. Hold on. All right. Hold on. Yeah, I had to go. I had to go in the other room to get it. I forgot. Yeah. Look at my coaster I have.
Oh, that is awesome. That is
Such a
great.
nerd. I love it.
Yeah. I remember when they debuted that smirk. I remember like on the band's website, they said the premiere of their first music video
Yeah.
for the new album. They're also going to show you the album cover. And obviously, have you seen the music video for Have a Nice
Oh
Day?
yeah. Of course.
Where the smirk is, so he comes out of his, I think it was a Cadillac or something, signs autographs, but then he shows the makes the smirk,
Right.
and so that was pretty cool. And I remember, trying to go to school with the stickers and plastered
Yeah.
them everywhere. The principal and the teachers got mad at me, so you can't do that. And
Oh, it was a great marketing campaign.
it sure was. But
Wow.
anyway, so I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on the podcast today. Like I said, I don't think anyone has ever heard you tell the story or Chip tell the story, at least on a podcast or in an interview. So
Right.
it's kind of great to kind of get your perspective on the story and
Well,
stuff.
I
So,
appreciate it.
yeah, I sincerely appreciate you coming on today. Stay on real quick. I'm going to end the recording, but again, thank you very much for taking the time.
Well, before I go, do me one favor.
Sure.
Have a nice day.